U.S. President condemns killings of 4 Muslims in New Mexico. Senate barely approves scale-back legislation on climate, taxes, and health care. Gaza death toll rises to 44 from Israeli attacks. Muslims mark 10th of Muharram with fasting and remembering Imam Hussain. World faces a loaded gun on Hiroshima's 77th anniversary. Muslim Home Alone film to hit UK screens in aid of charity. From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. On Sunday, U.S. President Joe Biden condemned the killing of 4 Muslim men in New Mexico. A full investigation of the murders is underway. Biden underlined that his administration strongly stands with the U.S. Muslim community. He said these hateful attacks have no place in America. Another Muslim man in New Mexico was killed Friday. Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina said the murder could be linked to 3 other Muslim men. They were killed in ambush-style shootings in the past 9 months. Authorities are asking anyone with information about the killings to contact police. The Council on American Islamic Relations has increased a reward to $10,000 from $5,000 for information leading to the suspect or suspects in the killings. At least 15 children were killed and 360 more people were wounded in the 3rd day of Israel's assault on Gaza yesterday. The bombardment ended with an Egypt-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian factions. It came into effect at 11:30 p.m. local time on Sunday. Israel and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, Israel's main target in this round of fighting, confirmed the ceasefire and claimed victory. PIJ chief Ziad Nakhla said the Palestinian group came out on top after Israel failed to destroy its capabilities. He also said the ceasefire was conditioned on the release of 2 PIJ officials arrested in the occupied West Bank. President Biden, however, remained silent on the killing of 44 Palestinians in Gaza by Israel. Nearly 100 million Americans skipped health care or cut back on necessities to cover the rising cost of medical treatment in 2022, a poll shows. Inflation has hit a 40-year high this year, rising to 9.1% in June. Healthcare inflation was at 4.5%. Gallup and West Health surveyed people nationwide about how they handled higher healthcare costs over the past 6 months. It showed 38%, or an estimated 98 million people, reported delaying or avoiding medical care or buying prescription drugs, driving less, cutting back on utilities, skipping a meal, and borrowing money. A majority of respondents with an annual household income below $48,000 cut back on essentials. Nearly 20% of people with a household income above $180,000 also did the same. On Sunday, the U.S. Senate barely passed a $430 billion bill intended to fight climate change, lower drug prices, and raise some corporate taxes. The 51-50 party line vote needed Vice President Kamala Harris to cast a tie-breaking ballot. Thanks to Democratic Senator Kristen Sinema, there was a huge last-minute win for the private equity and hedge fund industries. Sinema forced the elimination of what would have been a $14 billion tax increase targeting private executives. Earlier on Sunday, Senate Republicans forced the removal of a Democratic proposal that would have capped insulin prices at $35 for private insurers. While the legislation falls short of the $2.2 trillion Build Back Better Act that the House passed in November, it still contains provisions progressives support. According to the group Public Citizen, these include extending healthcare subsidies for millions of Americans and forcing corporations to pay at least a 15% tax rate. It will also lead to support for massive investments in renewable energy. On Saturday, former President Donald Trump said he believes America has been destroyed in the 18 months since he left office. In a rambling 108-minute speech, Trump talked about out-of-control crime, inflation, and unemployment, which he estimates is 3 times the official number. Trump was giving the closing address at the Conservative Political Action Conference's summit in Dallas when he made the remarks. The ex-president was joined by Republican Representatives Ronnie Jackson, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. He complained about Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema supporting the Inflation Reduction Act. The measure passed a procedural vote after Vice President Kamala Harris cast a tie-breaking vote while Trump was speaking. Bilateral ties between Beijing and Washington are at their worst ever, according to one scholar. Andrew K.P. Leung, an international and independent China strategist in Hong Kong, told Andalu agency relations have never been worse than this. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's recent trip to Taiwan triggered China's suspension of high-level military contacts and climate change cooperation with the U.S. On Friday, Beijing introduced sanctions against Pelosi and her family, announcing 8 countermeasures against the U.S. It resulted in the cancellation of a phone call between U.S. and Chinese military leaders, as well as a working meeting between the Chinese and U.S. Defense Departments. It is also suspected to have affected China-U.S. cooperation on illegal immigrants, drug control, and climate change. Muslims mark the 10th of Muharram with fasting and remembering Imam Hussain. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
On Monday, Muslims worldwide mark the 10th day of the Islamic month of Muharram. Known as Ashura, it is significant for all Muslims. Muslims commemorate the death of Imam Hussain on this day. He was the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, who was killed while standing up against a tyrannical ruler. Muslims also fast on Ashura, in keeping with the example of Prophet Muhammad, who fasted to commemorate the day Prophet Moses led Jews to freedom. In Shia-majority Iran, the 10th of Muharram was marked by massive public gatherings and street processions. Muharram is the first month of the Islamic calendar. Lebanon called on the European Union to cooperate on a roadmap for the gradual return of Syrian refugees to their country. The Foreign Ministry said Lebanon is going through an unprecedented economic and social crisis, with 80% of its people living below the poverty level. It cited the presence of Syrian refugees as a main reason for the economic crisis. The ministry said Lebanon and the EU have a common interest in finding a sustainable solution to the Syrian displacement issue. Lebanon is hosting around 1.5 million Syrian refugees. About 900,000 of them are registered at the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. Over 62,000 briquette houses have been built in the northern Syrian province of Idlib, the Turkish Interior Minister said Saturday. Süleyman Soylu said on Twitter that the homes are for the honorable, voluntary, safe return of our Syrian brothers. Soylu said Turkey aims to complete over 100,000 briquette houses by the end of 2022. That is per the instructions of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and with the support of non-governmental organizations. Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency is coordinating the project. Poet and author Fareh Malik has been named the 2022 RBC PEN Canada New Voices Award winner. Malik's debut poetry collection, Streams That Lead Somewhere, will be published by Mawenzi House on August 15th. The Toronto-born artist said he has always been fascinated by verbal and oral storytelling. The Hamilton, Ontario resident has also been a semi-professional dancer for nearly 10 years. He has been involved in spoken word since high school, when he said his English teacher told him he wasn't the best at English. But during the pandemic lockdowns, Malik says being unable to go to dance studios, he started to focus more on poetry. On Saturday, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres said humanity is playing with a loaded gun while in Hiroshima for the 77th anniversary of the bombing on Japan. The United States dropped the world's first atomic bomb on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. It obliterated the city and killed 140,000 people. 3 days later, the U.S. dropped a second atomic bomb on the city of Nagasaki, killing 74,000 people. Guterres questioned what the world learned from the destruction of Hiroshima, where tens of thousands of people were killed by the bomb. He said nuclear weapons don't guarantee safety, only death and destruction. Guterres repeated warnings he gave this week at a nuclear non-proliferation treaty conference in New York. Super Hijabi, a critically acclaimed film starring a Muslim girl wearing a hijab, will be screened in 5 British cities. The film has been called the Muslim version of Home Alone. It will be screened in London, Bradford, Birmingham, Manchester, and Glasgow from August 19th to 29th. The film benefits international charity Penny Appeals campaign on behalf of orphans. The story is about a 10-year-old girl tech genius whose parents are on the brink of divorce. After thieves steal the family safe, the girl uses her skills to track down the bad guys and reclaim the family's belongings, Penny Appeals said. The charity said the production is revolutionary to the world of Muslim-inspired movies. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour, walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back. To discuss the killings of Muslim men in New Mexico, let's go to Edward Ahmad Mitchell. Over to you, Edward.
Thank you, Samana. And now we turn to New Mexico. I do not have to tell you, our viewers, about the situation happening there. This has got the attention of the American Muslim community and the entire country. A series of shootings that appear to be targeting Muslim residents of Albuquerque, dating all the way back to November of 2021 and escalating this week. We want to learn more about what is happening in Albuquerque, learn more about the Muslim community there, how they're responding, and of course, what we in the broader community can do to help them through this difficult moment. To discuss this now, I'd like to welcome on our guest, and we appreciate him being here. He's very busy. Brother Ahmad Assad, who is an attorney, and he serves as the founder and leader of Assad and Associates. He is also the president of the Islamic Center of New Mexico. He has had to play a central role in responding to this crisis. He's been dealing with law enforcement, Muslim organizations, and serving the local community. We pray that Allah makes it easy for him to get through this and rewards him for all the good that he's doing. Assalamu alaikum, counselor. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallah feek for those kind words. We are, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and through the dua of all our brothers and sisters around the world, holding it together as much as we can. The community is as you can understandably, they are quite fearful of the unknown. They're disheartened, deflated, confused, concerned, and are just trying to do the best they can under very trying times. You know, we have an interesting community here in New Mexico.
Yeah, tell us about them, please. I want people to learn more about the New Mexico Muslim community. You know, to tell us about the history, size, and anything you want to share about the community. I think that's a great way to start, inshallah.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. So our community is a good community, whether it's the Islamic community or the statewide community. You know, we make up about the Muslim community has a variety of ethnicities, probably representing over 30 here in the state of New Mexico, from all walks of the Muslim world. Muslims have been part of the fabric in New Mexico going back probably 60, 70 years as more recent Muslim immigrants, but the Lebanese community was here prior to that. But in more recent times, I would say that most Muslim families started coming to New Mexico by way of Gallup. It attracted a lot of Muslim families, mainly Palestinian families, seeking business with Native American members of the community in the Indian jewelry business. But we've grown and mushroomed and attracted a lot of professionals, academics, students over the years. We're a very close-knit family, if you will, because we make up a very small percentage of the state. But we live in various parts of the city. We're not cornered in any particular part of the city or the state. And so you'll find about 6,500 of us through the state, and it's a small community. A lot of people know each other, and I serve as president of the largest Islamic center here in the state.
That overview, Alhamdulillah, sounds like a wonderful, small, tight-knit, growing community. So with that being said, what is going on? Tell us for those of our viewers who may not know the details, they've seen confusing things on social media. Just give us the facts. What has been going on in terms of this shooting spree that appears to be targeting Muslim residents of Albuquerque?
We had one shooting against a member of the Islamic community back in November last year. That really the investigation has not yielded and didn't yield any facts that were meaningful or answered any questions about the reasons why or the circumstances that led up to the killing. So that investigation in and of itself didn't go anywhere. It wasn't until more recent killings, unfortunately, of 3 members of the community, mostly the two members that were killed earlier in the week, and that sparked an interest in possible common denominator here, that the target of the killings were Muslim young men that were members of our community. And that sparked an interest in law enforcement quickly and swiftly reaching out to me to share information with regards to some evidence that suggested at least 2 of the past 3 were connected by way of a potential same shell casings and same bullet caliber that were associated with both killings. And so we don't have further evidence of the ballistics, the tool markings, to ascertain whether they came from the same gun. But that's kind of the perspective that prompted law enforcement to begin looking at this in a particularly with a lens on whether Muslim Americans were targeted. And certainly the last one, Brother Naeem Hussain, who died Friday night, really kind of set the tone with some general understanding that whether it's someone that has a hate agenda, the perpetrator, or some other motive, it certainly, no doubt, ties in at least 3 of the 4 shootings. Law enforcement has taken interest in the one I represented that took place in November. So we're talking about 4 different shootings that don't seem to have any other motives associated with the killing, but the pattern of how they died is very similar, ambush style, and in a very egregious manner, being killed.
Yeah, it's unprecedented, really. I mean, I said this earlier that, I think American Muslims are accustomed to worrying about things like, for example, a mass shooting or a mosque being burned or other acts of hate that are more typical. But the notion of this sort of shooting spree targeting Muslims is quite unprecedented. But also, it's clearly a pattern, right? I mean, it's almost like you don't want to see a pattern. You want to not assume the worst. But especially after Brother Naeem was killed, it's how can you ignore it, right? I remember we saw and heard about the two who had been killed earlier in the week, and that clearly indicated a pattern. But for to have another person die in the same week, statistically, it's almost impossible to imagine this being unrelated. So, having said all that, how has the law enforcement response been at the local and federal level? Is the community giving everything it needs in terms of the resources needed to catch whoever is doing this, and also the resource needed to protect Muslim institutions, community centers until the person is caught?
I'm very impressed with the quick, swift response that law enforcement has displayed here. And the law enforcement through that includes the Albuquerque Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, State Police. They're accompanied by local FBI agents, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the District Attorney's Office. We have the support of the governor. It's been on the phone with me 2-3 times since the incident. They are taking this very seriously. They're working tirelessly to accommodate the concerns of the community. There have been pledges by the governor and other entities statewide behind law enforcement and their efforts at pursuing the investigation. So I am very pleased with the local and statewide support, but I do believe that this is a national cause, and as such, I am seeking and have sought out support from our congressional delegation and our senators to push the White House and Department of Justice for experience, for other sources that can aid law enforcement in its quest to resolve this investigation. I would prefer a trained team from Quantico being on the ground here assisting, because this isn't a unique set of circumstances alone. There's a component that should have the focus and the attention of our president and vice president and national leaders here. So although I'm pleased unequivocally with the quick response from law enforcement, I would very much appreciate a more focus from the FBI, Department of Justice, and the White House, and taking this matter just to that level that we need to resolve this dilemma, this puzzle.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is there needs to be a completely all hands on deck approach with the best people being sent. And this is what the FBI does. I know the Muslim community has been very critical of the Bureau for some of the things they've done and the way they treated Muslims. But the one thing that they are supposed to be experts at is tracking down serial killers, serial bombers. What's the Unabomber, Eric Robert Rudolph? That's what they do. And so I was happy to see, my understanding was there was a special agent in charge at the press conference you all spoke at. But I think the point you're getting at is you want to see even more of a federal presence on the ground in Albuquerque to help bring this to an end.
Yes.
All right. Now, so next question, the community. How is the community responding to this? I know there's been a lot of, obviously, fear and concern if people are being targeted truly because they are Muslim or because they appear to be Muslim. Obviously, that creates a fear of going out. But at the same time, I know there's resilience. People who are not going to let this deter them from practicing their faith, being visibly and publicly Muslim. So tell us about how the community is responding to this and handling this very difficult, unprecedented situation for them.
Unprecedented is key here. We're dealing with this by the hour. There is obviously a sense of deflation within the community, but there is we are resilient as an ummah. We have faith, alhamdulillah, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that gives us, it's an incredible source of strength for us to move forward. But a lot of the community members have had to, change their life patterns, understandably so. I mean, it's impacted their ability to attend the masjid for prayers. They fear that that they would expose themselves to harm or that of loved ones. So there is a conservative approach with travel, and understandably so, because we've basically tried to advise people to not travel unless it's necessary. And when you travel, to travel in groups. And when you do, be cognizant of your surroundings. Understand that anything odd would require you to make 911 calls, and don't second guess your instinct. We've encouraged people not to travel at night. We've encouraged them not to be engaged with people that seem to be agitated, to avoid circumstances that would require some conflict. Certainly, businesses have been impacted. People that have businesses have limited their own hours and found coverage by way of non-Muslims and don't appear for those. There's people that have left the state. I know of one or two that have left temporarily till this thing is over. So all in all, you've had multiple variations of what we are normally involved in terms of our daily activities. But these are precautionary measures that are necessary. But we are hopeful, inshallah, that this investigation will conclude and we'll have some sense of stability moving forward. The community, the larger community, I just have to say this, the larger community in New Mexico has just been incredibly supportive. We have a warm community from the minority African-American community that have reached out, from the Native American communities, Hispanic communities, rural communities, farming communities. New Mexico is a wonderful place. It's a warm and inviting place. It has been for Muslims. We've been engaged. We've assimilated. We've held office. We're it's steadfast and ahead of the game when it comes to multiple areas, whether it's economic development, or academics, or businesses. We're ahead of the game. We're a very successful community and well respected by all and involved in grassroots politics as well.
And that's great to hear. And we hope, inshallah, that can continue and grow after this crisis is over. Last question for you, Council, and we'll let you go. The broader national Muslim community, what, if anything, can we be doing to support? Obviously, everyone is concerned nationally. This is something that impacts us all. The Prophet ﷺ said we're one body, and if one part of the body hurts, the whole body is hurt. So anything the national Muslim community can be or should be doing to support you beyond what's already being done in terms of raising awareness.
And many have come forward, including CARE and yourself and others that have just provided a very strong source of support for all of us. And Jazakumullah khair. First and foremost, we want your dua for all of us, inshallah, because of the strength we derive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the one that protects is Allah, first and foremost. Second of all, if you can influence, and if you have any influence in DC and put pressure on the White House, on your congressional or senatorial delegations, Department of Justice, we want some pressure to get them to give us support through maybe more experienced investigators, and any kind of support that local law enforcement may need moving forward. So any resources would help. But your dua is first and foremost what we need. And we appreciate everybody that has extended their hand. And there have been a lot of Muslim organizations and leaders through the country and through the world, actually, that have reached out to me. So if there's one thing that has come in terms of a positive, and subhanAllah, Allah works in mysterious ways, I felt unity from all our Muslim ummah, from all over the world, and I'm very grateful. Jazakumullah khair.
Alhamdulillah, that's what we need, whether Muslims are under threat in New Mexico, Canada, New Zealand, Palestine, China, France. We need that unity around the world. So alhamdulillah.
Happening around the world, Brother Ed, and alhamdulillah, there's a lot of dua that needs to be made for our brothers in Palestine and everywhere else, inshallah. May Allah give us faraj. May Allah give us faraj.
Ameen. Jazakallah khairan, Counselor. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch, inshallah, and just again, let everyone know if there's anything more we can do.
I was honored to be with you. Thank you, Akhi.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
And we'll send it back to you, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.